Hello, everybody. My name is Benny, and welcome to the Fool's Apprentice. Today is another tarot chat day, and all the way from Australia, I have Silvia from Fairlight Tarot. How are you doing, Silvia?
Hi, Benny. Thank you so much for having me. I'm fine. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm very
Yeah,
excited to be here.
yeah. Doing these videos when you're not comfortable doing them, it can be a little nerve-wracking. Like I had mentioned earlier, the first time I did this, I did it with Lisa Papez, and I was so nervous. And as I got into the conversation, it kind of dissipated and I got really into it.
Yeah,
It also does help for me that I do a lot of presentations in front of people and I've performed in front of people. So that does kind of help with that kind of experience. But, here, that's the one thing that I really love about TarotTube is everybody seems to be very supportive, very friendly. It feels like a
absolutely.
very safe place to be your authentic self. So I think this is a great place to be nervous.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And that's the main reason why I actually started the channel because of the community, because it feels not just safe, but supportive as
Yep.
well. And I have to say, I was very hesitant at first because we all have an account on Instagram, we all have our social media outlets and we get in touch with people. But there's always something more when you have a channel on YouTube. You put
Hmm.
yourself out there.
Yeah. And so before we get to, so tell me, how did you come up with Fairlight Tarot and what is your channel about?
Okay, so I used to live in a suburb which was called Fairlight.
Oh,
And when I started the channel, I was still living there. It's on the coast. It's literally 400 meters from the beach, from the ocean. And I always loved that name. And truth be told, when we decided where to find a place to live, I was really rooting for that place, for this suburb, because it's really nice. But the name itself, I thought that it was very positive. Do you have that as well? The names of places can be, can bring positive vibes.
yes. Yes, they can.
And
We have
so
names all, yes.
and I liked it a lot. And then I thought to myself, when you're choosing a name, because social media is not very forgiving, and when you start with a name, you kind of stick to it because people start knowing you for that
Hmm.
name. And I thought to myself, you know what, fair light means something positive to me. Perhaps it's the first light you see out of the clouds, after a
Oh,
storm.
that's
So it
sweet.
was very evocative.
Yeah, it's actually it's a pretty name. I just didn't know
Yeah.
I'm always interested to see how people come up with their names.
Yeah.
I just did an interview with Dawn Michelle,
Okay.
and her name was actually just kind of given to her, which I thought was very, very interesting. It wasn't anything that she talked about was really that resonated with her, but she used it, and so it kind of became her brand for a while until she recently
Absolutely.
changed it. So yeah,
Yeah.
the name is I think, a very important part of kind of our branding. So
Sure.
I really thought about mine, and I will tell you, I love my name. I think my name is like perfect.
Me too. It's perfect because on the one hand, it shows your journey in
Hmm.
tarot, but it's also because it communicates that you're open-minded. You know what I mean? Because the fool is the person that is open-minded, is the person that wants to experience something. And I really like, I didn't know you before we started, even before I started my channel, but when I saw your name on a couple of on videos, you get the feed on YouTube, you have your home and you have all of the feeds related to tarot. And I was actually drawn to your channel because of the name. It made me curious. It made me want to check out your videos. So,
Yeah, I wanted a name that kind of encapsulated tarot, and then at first it was going to be called The Fool's Journey, but then somebody else had it for a business because I
yeah,
wanted a website. And then
yeah,
I'm like, I brainstormed and I'm like, well, I'm learning, I'm taking this journey with the fool. And then all of a sudden, this idea that the fool was actually like my teacher. And
mhm,
it just felt like, yeah, that's who I am. And so, and I
Yeah.
love the name because I think it's kind of a name that will um, test what is it? How do you say it? Stand the test of time.
Yes,
Yes, because
definitely.
the tarot's, I mean, you're always learning. I don't think you can go, period. I have learned the tarot. I am done. And I think
Oh,
that's kind
never.
of, yeah.
I agree. Well, look, I started reading 36 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
36, and I'm still not, I'm confident in reading, but I'm still learning. There's so many things that you can actually build up on your reading, and so many layers of knowledge that I feel like it becomes a life's quest. Like
Hmm.
you will never stop. And that's why it's much more interesting than other disciplines, to me at least.
Oh, it's very intriguing because the nuances that can come up, like I'm still relatively very new. And just like the Tower card, I was recently studying the Tower card. Oh my God, I'm going completely off topic. So, the Tower card, I always saw it as something that happened outside of myself. And then as I was studying the Tower card this week, all of a sudden it just dawned on me that it is also can be an internal experience,
Yeah.
um, where there's a shakeup, like you have an epiphany that all of a sudden really challenges your worldviews or a belief system that kind of
Yeah.
like d- changes it completely. So that was a really fascinating moment for me. So now I have a new perspective of the Tower card I didn't have before this week. So I think that will continue to happen as the years pass on.
Absolutely. I think that it's also helping content creators, because I was recently watching a few videos of, fountain pen lovers and
Oh,
pen lovers. I am into fountain pens. I really like them. But there seems to be a common theme. I don't know if you notice it as well. There's a lot of people saying that they feel a kind of a burnout,
oh,
and so they're referring to fountain pen, for example, in this specific case, as a hobby. And so they were saying, there is a point in your hobby that you can actually burn out, but because it's unthinkable. You look at your hobby and you think it's the one thing that I do when I'm burnt out for work,
yeah.
right? So you turn to something that makes you feel happy, and yet you can still experience burnout out of a hobby. But to me, tarot has never been a hobby. And so that's why when you learn and you keep on learning and you find new ways to look at tarot, that helps you through that burnout that some other disciplines don't have, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Also, I mean, if you have because there is always something new to learn with the tarot, I mean, the chances that you'll ever even get the exact same three card spread ever in your lifetime is so minute, right?
True.
And if it does, it's probably not with the same person with the same question. So it's going to be a completely different read. I think that's just so like, I find that so intriguing. So yes,
Yes.
I think the tarot people do burn out. I think there were a couple of YouTubers that had talked about that, how to get over that kind of burnout. But I think for some people, it's because it's their job or it's a big part of their life and they're constantly in it. So I could see how that could happen. But there is so much in
Yeah.
tarot that I
Yeah.
think it's very easy to kind of bounce back from that kind of burnout.
Absolutely. I
So
agree.
I'd like to go back in history. And how did you get introduced to tarot? What kind of sparked your interest with tarot?
So we're going a long way back in time. I was very lucky because my auntie Jenna, so she was my mom's sister, she lived close by when I was very little. Well, all my life basically until I moved out. And she was this fascinating person. She had an incredible relationship with nature. And I guess that were she still alive today, she will probably identify herself with a woodworker or an Italian version or of a woodworker, or a witch, perhaps. But back then, she didn't feel like she had to, pick a lane. She just felt this incredible connection with nature. And she strongly believed that nature is giving us messages all the time. And so she was always fascinating to me because all of her practices, even on daily tasks, she would tell me, look, this is the way nature is speaking to you right now, and you need to listen. And she taught me to be always open to these kind of experiences. And just to give you one example, they talk about how you can find divination in pretty much everything. My auntie was exactly that. So she would look at the sky, okay, and there will be a flock of birds. Something normal that you just go out and you see birds, and she would look at them and she would just see messages in the movement of the birds. And when I was little, I thought it was something akin to magic, because you're a little girl, you're 4 or 5 years old, and your auntie comes by and she looks at the sky and there's birds there, and she'll be like, "Yeah, tomorrow is going to rain," and then it was going to rain, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm so cool because my auntie is, she's a magical person. But then when I actually started getting serious about divination and tarot as well, although she was showing me, for example, charm casting or bone throwing before we actually moved into tarot. But I was thinking that is one very strong and direct connection to our own selves within this wonderful world which is all around us. And so it's she taught me, but in a most wonderful way, she taught me how to be open to experiences that somehow are sometimes neglected by others.
Okay.
And when I was actually studying more seriously, let's say, and I was reading about the Etruscan, and she was passionate about the Etruscan. So the Etruscan were this population that was pre-Roman, really ancient population, and they were doing exactly the same things. And so that's how you realize that your auntie is not that magical, but she's definitely having this conversation with nature on a daily basis. So that's how I started.
Okay. And do you remember like the first time you saw a tarot deck or used a tarot deck or were introduced to tarot?
So she was using playing cards rather
Okay.
than tarot
Mm-hmm.
for divination, and so that's where we started. But there's so many similarities between reading a deck of playing cards and reading tarot, because in Italy, at least, we actually started with reading cards that had, then we added up the major arcanas, obviously. But it was such a common thing to see. You would go out, at least back in the late 70s, early 80s, I'm talking about. You would go out in, at dusk, and there will be people sitting outside playing cards. But then you will also see the way in which they were relating to the cards. And that was a way to read tarot. I strongly believe that it all started from that. And so the first deck that I had was actually, is that okay if I show you
Of course,
the deck
of
I've got
course.
here?
Yes. In fact, I'm going to be asking you about your favorite decks and what decks like. So yes, showing me your decks would be great.
So let me see. So this is the camera. Let's see if, tell me if
Yeah.
you can see. Okay. So this is called, obviously it's an Italian deck, but
Yeah.
it's called the Diviner's Tarot. And it's based on playing cards. So you do have majors. As you can see, we got the full
Oh, that is
card.
cute.
That is cute, isn't it? Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe so. And then you have all of these cards, playing cards, but they're scenic. So they're
Okay.
fully scenic, but they're very much imprinted into playing cards.
Okay.
And it's weird because, so let me see, for example, this is the Ten of Hearts, which is the Ten of Cups.
Okay, can you move it to the left a little bit? There you go. Okay.
So basically, it's, as you can see, it's scenic because it does show you. It's not just 10 cups or
Yeah.
10 hearts, but it shows you a scene. But at the same time, because it keeps the seeds, and then it's easier to make that connection when you learn how to read them.
Yeah.
And ironically, this is not an RWS. So I didn't start. Sorry, I think I got kicked out.
It's okay. It's all right. Well, like I said, I can edit this out, so it's not that big of a deal.
So where do I start from the?
Well, the last
Was
thing
talking.
you talked, yeah,
Oh,
you
talking
talked
about,
about the
okay.
Ten of Cups.
Yeah, the Ten of Cups. So at the same time, it's scenic, but it gives you a different approach to the Ten of Cups, which is not, and this deck in specific is not an RWS clone.
Right.
And so I was lucky enough to start with the system that was already giving me the possibility to have an additional layer of
Okay.
interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it's still available, by the way. And that's amazing because we talk about 1988. That's when I was gifted. I was gifted a deck. But then I don't know if does it ring any bells that the first deck needs to be a gift?
Well, that I've heard that, yes, that, but if I would have waited for somebody here where I live to give me a deck, I'd still be waiting. So,
Really?
yes, yes. And frankly, I didn't know a single person who was into tarot. Now, I had known of some people who did readings, but it was more like palm readings, castings. Um, I grew up, I'm Mexican American, and so that culture, uh, tarot cards, not, I don't ever recall anybody talking about tarot cards. I just happened, something popped up on YouTube. It was Katie Flowers, and then
Ah, yes.
I was hooked from
Yeah.
there. But yes, I have heard the tradition that the first deck should be gifted.
It's something that nowadays people don't really pay too much attention to because I feel like tarot has become more and more streamlined. So we've been blessed with an abundance of decks lately, in the last 15 years, I reckon. And it has become not just a way for divination to make its way through society, but also to connect to the tarot community. There is this sense of community that it wasn't there when I started.
What was it like when
And
you started?
um, I have to say, I was very lucky. So my own personal experience was not necessarily what other people would have experienced. But from my point of view, because I was so close to my auntie and also her own friends were into tarot, I never felt like there was a stigma.
Mm,
I do have to say, though, that other friends that I have in the tarot community from Italy, they started in a completely different way, and they do recognize that they found it very difficult to come out as tarot readers to society in general.
yeah.
And it's a pity, it's a pity because there's I think it's magnificent. It's one of the most fascinating thing to have someone that is looking to a deck of cards and finding a way to connect with the person they're reading for. Isn't it wonderful?
Mhm. So I think it's really interesting that in your youth, you actually had a community of tarot readers that, kind of fostered this, knowledge and this experience that you had with it. Because I don't think a lot of people nowadays get that experience. For a lot of people, I think it's a very lonely experience. That's one of the reasons I started this tarot chat, because I wanted to connect with the people that were on the screen. I wanted to know more. I wanted to ask questions. And just one day it crossed my mind, well, why don't you bring them on and ask questions? And so what that must have been a very rich experience for you to have all these people that you could go to and just talk about tarot so freely with.
Absolutely. And it does enrich your knowledge as well, because there's only so much studying you can do. But then I think that you reach a higher level of professionalism when you confront yourself with others that are doing the same and they've been doing that for decades. And even when you're a novice, but you understand nuances that
Hmm.
you can't find in a book. There's some fantastic books out there, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I believe that the personal touch, it goes a long way for
Well,
sure.
a real life experience does make a difference. It's like going to
Yes.
college, you get all the book knowledge, and then you go out to your profession and you're like, I didn't learn this in any of
Yeah.
my classes. And so you're having to learn by doing. So I get
Yes.
that concept very, very clearly.
Yeah.
Now, did you, when it came to studying the deck, did you actually sit and actually study, or was it that you were always working with the cards with people, or was it a combination of both?
At the beginning, I was just thrown into the water and I had to learn to swim because I remember the very first time I gave a reading, it was with my auntie by my side. And it was to a friend of hers that she literally asked for me. And to this day, I don't know why. And we were a bit surprised because I was 14 years old. And
Mm,
I thought to myself, I'm a minor. So obviously, there's a couple of things that you need to be very conscious of and aware of when you give a reading. And for example, in my case, I always hesitate to give a reading to a minor. I tend not to unless there's a very particular circumstance. So you can imagine that when I was a minor, giving a reading felt really daunting.
mm,
But my auntie
yeah.
was there. It was a very safe environment. I felt like I could actually do it. And, but it felt like something amazing to be able to connect to this with this person on such an intimate level, even though the questions were very general.
Hmm.
But there was this connection, there was this kind of bridge that you create between the cards, yourself, and the person you're reading for. And that thrill, because it really gives you goosebumps, that thrill has never left me. It took different kind of, aspects or forms, but it's still there. Whenever I give a reading to someone, even if it's one of my oldest friends, she's also into tarot. It's still, I feel like butterflies in my stomach, and it's kind of amazing, really.
Now, when you were learning the tarot, what were some of the biggest challenges in learning tarot for you when you were starting?
I think that there's two things: technical challenges
Okay.
and emotional challenges.
Ah, interesting.
I think so. And I think that when it comes to the emotional challenges, reading for so many years, I kind of got okay with that. Technical challenges also, but you still have at the back of your mind, you're still so very conscious, at least in my case, I'm still so very conscious that what I'm saying needs to be understandable.
Okay.
You're receiving a message from the cards. It's your duty as a reader to translate, to perhaps understand, and then translate in such a way that the other person understands you. Because there's two steps to reading. It's not just you're looking at the cards and you're just reading them. You need to make it so that the other person receives the message in an effective way, because otherwise it's all for nothing.
Yeah, well, I used to be a sign language interpreter. So
Oh,
one of the
wow.
things that I used to do is I would hear the message or I would see the message, then I would have to translate it and always make sure that it was understood in the intent and meaning of the person that was delivering the message. So I take that experience as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about it. I do the same thing with the cards. It's like, because I read for a few friends here and there, not very often. I'm just starting to get into it. And I take that same approach. It's like, okay, what are the cards telling me? And I sometimes I'm talking and I will have to pause because I'm like, okay, this isn't making sense. Or I won't even begin speaking because it's not making sense yet. Until I'm ready, then I speak because you're right. I want to make sure that the person who's getting the message knows what's being said.
And it's because most of the time we're talking about something very important for them. I had experiences of all sorts of questions, but sometimes you can feel that the other person is in pain, and you have a duty of care towards this person because they come to you with a question, and it's a very important question for them. And you feel like you need to be very kind, but at the same time, you have to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going back to your question with the challenges, sometimes I do find it a challenge when I see something not positive,
Yeah.
without saying the word negative, but not positive in the cards. How do I deliver the message? And it needs to be effective, but it also needs to show that I care. That
Yes.
we're not just here as some kind of a translator, but we actually care.
Yeah, having some tact and being able to deliver a
Yes,
difficult message.
absolutely.
So yes,
Yeah.
completely understood. Any particular cards that kind of gave you a really hard time at the beginning in trying to express it or learn it or kind of figure out how to build language around it?
I feel, is that okay if I tell you one example in specific?
Of course. This whatever you want to share, please feel free to share. You don't have to ask me.
So I was 21, and back then we were managing an outdoor cinema, and but it was Halloween, and so for a theme, I decided to give reading in between the two times of the movie. So part one, and then we had a break of like 1 hour, and I was giving readings. And so this guy comes to me, and he asks for a reading for his son. And generally, I don't give readings for a third person that is not that, because you need a consensus, you need,
Right.
acceptance. But he insisted, and I was 21, Benny. You develop a certain sense of barriers later in life, but when I was 21, I kind of accepted because he was really insisting. And I was flipping the cards, and there was the death card, and he lost it. He completely lost his mind. He stood up, and he was like, "Are you kidding me? Yeah, I come to you for a reading for my son, and you showing me the death card." And he did not give me the opportunity to explain that death doesn't mean physical death,
Right.
And I found it very, very challenging that moment because I felt his pain. I felt that I hurt him, but I wanted to explain to him, that especially when it comes to these kind of things, there's so many layers that you can apply to the reading, and it just laughed. And so that was a bit of a challenge with that card, because after that, every time that I was flipping the cards in further readings, I was like, "It's the death card, but," and I was always going, "Hang on a second, just hear me out.
Don't run
Yes, it's the
away.
death card." I really felt like I had to over explain it.
Okay. Yeah. Just so you know, I think your light kind of went out.
Yeah, sorry. Let me just see if I can fix it, because I don't know what happened. Hang on.
No, that's fine. I do know that if it happened to me, I'd want somebody to tell me because we set up our space specifically for the way that we want to look on camera, and lighting is really, really important.
It's back on. Do you want me to repeat the part of the reading, or is that
No,
okay?
it's okay.
Cool.
It's okay.
No worries.
Now, how long did it take you after you kind of started learning divination, the cards, tarot? How long into your learning did you feel confident? Like, I got this. I don't need someone sitting next to me, or I don't need to rely on a guidebook. I feel like I have a basic command of the cards.
Any day now?
Oh,
Look, jokes aside, those butterflies in the stomach are still there,
Mhm.
even after so many years. And it's probably because I'm driven by compassion. And so I strongly believe that there's always something more we can do. There's always something, a different system that we can learn, or a different idea, or a different concept about a card that applies to that specific situation. So I was watching a video by Lisa Robertson. She's also on YouTube. Sorry, is it Lisa Robertson? Sorry, just a second, because I don't want to say her name.
Oh, I
Do you know?
when I was doing my interview with Dawn, I actually interviewed her this morning. I have Kelsey from Huggy Tarot. I completely forgot her channel name, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to look this up because she's gonna kill me. So I totally get it.
I got it now. She's actually a tarot creator. So, okay, I'll start again. So I was watching Lisa Robertson, who's a tarot creator as well. She created the Cirque du Tarot and the Animal Totem Tarot. They've been published by Llewellyn.
Okay.
And she was interviewing the tarot lady. And they were talking about the Five of Swords. And they were actually looking at that specific card in a completely different way to what I normally all the associations that I normally apply to that card. And I thought to myself, here I am in 2024, after so many years of studying, reading, and pretty much living tarot, and I never heard of this before. And so it was called the imposter syndrome.
No, yeah,
They were talking about imposter syndrome, and they were saying that it's when the Five of Swords sometimes comes into a reading for someone, it might mean that they are successful, but because they feel like they don't deserve that kind of success, then they feel like they have this imposter syndrome, so they feel they don't deserve it. And I thought that whether you agree or not, it's, sometimes I actually ask myself, do I actually agree with that? But regardless of whether our experiences have been, agreeing with that meaning or not, I think it's fantastic that we can actually look at cards and find new meanings and find a different way to relate to those cards.
yeah. One of the things that I've come to learn is that I don't necessarily have to always agree with a meaning of a card the way somebody else sees it, because it may not resonate with me, it may not be true for me, may not have my experience for me. But having that additional knowledge is good to have in your back pocket, because maybe one day it'll pop up and it will have meaning. So I think that's kind of
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And
We have a duty to know everything we can in order to give the best reading we can.
yes, I agree. Now, earlier you were talking about you didn't start with Rider-Waite system. You started with another, you showed me your favorite deck. Well, how did you get into the Rider-Waite system? Because is that generally what you use now? Because when I watch your channel, those are generally the most of the decks that I see are Rider-Waite Smith inspired.
I agree. I do have, out of all of my decks, I would say 95% are WS. There's a few Thoth that I have as well. I don't have many Marseille. I started getting into RWS early on. That was probably when I started being more serious about reading. And it wasn't just, an activity to do in the community. And because I was also asked, so you would have people coming to you and they want a specific deck, or they have other readings, they've had other readings with other readers, and they start saying, oh, but that person used this deck, and this card didn't mean, you didn't read it the same way. And so, I understood that was required of me, that I had to step up and learn other systems as well.
Do you like the right? It seems like you like the right of way system if 95% of your decks are RWS.
I think that we've got so many beautiful decks out there,
Oh
and
my
there's
God.
a few beautiful Thoth or beautiful Marseille, but the majority would be RWS, I
Yeah.
think.
I think it's because the image is really like if you didn't know anything about tarot at all and you looked at the images, you could come up with meaning
Mm.
that would resonate.
Yes,
I think
true.
the
That's true.
images really kind of speak to the human part of who we are as people. So I think that's
Absolutely.
one reason. So with how long have you had your channel up?
Not long.
Yeah.
So I only started 15 months, 16 months ago.
So we
Yeah.
started about the same time because August will be 2 years for me.
Ah, cool. Okay.
And
I started in December.
okay, so just several months separate us.
Yeah.
What inspired you to want to create your tarot tube channel?
Well, that's a bit of a funny story because I was on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
before I started the YouTube channel, and I had been on Instagram for a few years, and I really wanted to talk. I just felt like I needed to talk. I wasn't happy about showing a photo of a card or a deck or 20 cards. I really wanted to talk, and I started doing reels, on Instagram.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I had so many technical problems, and then they were cutting off, or people. You have the statistics, and you see people click off after maybe 60 seconds, or because necessarily I was talking just about one deck, perhaps they wanted to see more decks, so they were skipping ahead. And I thought to myself, Instagram is not the best platform in order to for me to actually talk about my decks.
Mm-hmm.
And by then, I was watching all the time Don Michelle, but she was called Boho Taro back then, and
Yeah.
was watching Lisa Pepez and Danny at Danny Mystic
Mm-hmm.
and other tarot tubers, and I thought to myself, I love how much I can know them through this channel.
Yes.
It felt like they were friends. And I thought to myself, I want to be in a situation in which I can say that my tarot community or the tarot community I'm a part of is almost as if they were my friends. And Instagram just wasn't doing it for me. And so
Yeah.
that's how I started.
It is a very different feel for both. I do have an Instagram account. And really, for me, my Instagram account is really like my tarot journal. I'll pull
Mm.
my cards for the day, I'll do my reading, I'll summarize my reading in a little post. And when I need to go back to my reading during the day, I will go to Instagram, I'll look at my reading and look at the cards and then move on. I tried to do a couple of other things with Instagram, but it didn't resonate with me. I don't know.
Mm.
The tarot tube really, really resonates. Now, did you do any kind of research before you started your channel, or did you just jump in and just try to figure it out as you went?
Jumped in. It's always I'm not an impulsive person because I'm an air sign, so I tend to think and overthink. But I started preparing, and I started, oh, do I have the right camera? Do I have the right lighting? Do I have the right microphone and the right setup? And then one day I was like, you know what? Just do it. Just go for it because otherwise you'll never start. And there were many mistakes at the beginning, and who cares? I mean, we're out there, we're doing our thing.
In the beginning, I went a little crazy. I went and I researched all these cameras. I went like all out, and then all these microphones and all these lights and what I needed, and oh my gosh. And then finally I got everything, and I was I think the hardest part was learning all the technical part of how to record, how to edit, lighting, how to upload, all that kind of stuff. There were moments where it felt so overwhelming I thought I was going to quit. Uh, yes, did you have that too?
I do that basically every week. I especially, and I know that it's gonna sound like a cliche, but when Mercury is retrograde, Benny, you wouldn't believe the amount of issues that I get. It's stuff that never happens to you will happen. It's almost as if you just ask for trouble to come your way. But then, it makes it frustrating, but it also makes it funny because then you forget about the frustration and what remains is the memory of something that made you laugh at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Oh,
that's
let
an
me tell
experience.
you, one of my worst experiences are when I'm recording and I didn't double check that I hit record.
Oh,
That's happened to me more than once, and it happened to me with my Baba Studios unboxing that I was super excited about. Oh, I was so crushed, so crushed.
I
Uh,
remember the video. I remember watching it, and I think it was during Mercury retrograde. You should go back and check if that was
oh
the
my
case.
gosh, awful.
But yeah,
Any
I
any
think it happens
big
to
any
everyone.
big disappointments with kind of creating a um, video that kind of you're like, oh my God.
Just recently, I think it was probably a month ago or something like that. I wanted to do a VR to Thea from the Garden Goddess Tarot
Hmm.
because she did a really great video on black and white decks.
Hmm.
And I know that they're not shown a lot of love by the tarot community. So generally speaking, everyone would prefer colored decks. But I happen to like black and white decks. There's something to them. They have a spirit that is kind of different. And so I thought, oh, I'm gonna do a VR, it's gonna be cool. And I specifically chosen decks that she had not already shown in her video. And so I thought it's gonna complement her own video. And so I started to do a video. It's like an hour and a half, and then you would know about the editing that it takes ages, and then I upload it, and even uploading and processing takes ages. Everything is ready. Post the video. Then I went. I don't know. I did something. After a couple of hours, I received a message. Hey, from a friend. Hey, your video is black, and I'm like, what?
That's happened to me, but not black, but that's happened to me.
Well, and I promise you, I tried everything. And so there's like 30 minutes of video, normal video, and then it goes black. There's no audio, no video, and it goes on. So it's not like it cut off. It just goes on black. And, and I tried, so that you can contact YouTube support and
Yeah.
technical support and stuff. Even technical support did not know what happened. I deleted that video. I re-uploaded the same video that was fine in my camera in my iPad. Still the same issue.
Dang.
And
Interesting.
I know, and I remember someone saying, "Oh, so these are not all black decks; they're just a black video." And I thought to myself, you know what? Let's laugh about it because it is what it is. They
I've
don't want to be
twice.
sure.
I've had two videos I uploaded and regret didn't check. One is uh, when I flip my camera over, what will happen is that when I'm editing, the image will be upside down. So I have to flip that part of the image. Well, one time I
Yes.
forgot. And then recently I did the 25 wacky questions from Lisa and Peggy Papez. And I I uploaded the wrong part of a video, just a segment of the video. So it was a 9 minute video that started at like number 16. And I
Oh,
already had like 90 views, and I'm like, what? And nobody had
oh,
mentioned it to it until somebody finally did. So I had to upload the right video, and so all these people hadn't seen, like the first part, but nobody mentioned it, and I felt so bad. Um,
mm,
but I've come to be okay with this because there's nothing I can do about it. I can get frustrated a
exactly.
bit, and then after that, it's just like, well, it is what it is.
It happens. I've been working, years ago, I was working in production, TV production, and there's always issues. Just, it's impossible to have the perfect shot. It's a myth. It's a myth. And we are human beings.
Yeah.
We're full of flaws, and our videos will reflect that. And at a certain point, there's also, I think that there's a kind of understanding and forgiving from the community that they understand that it's not super easy, that sometimes things happen.
Yeah. Now, you post quite frequently, um, more so than I think the average YouTuber, TerraTuber. Do you have a schedule of when you post videos?
Yes.
I think I've seen one of
So,
your calendars that you do, but
yeah,
it's like three, four
I
times a week.
it's 5 times a week, but there's 3 videos for general viewers. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and that's Australia time. So obviously there will be 12 hours difference in some countries. But then I also post 2 videos per week, and sometimes even 3 videos for my members. So it's a total of 5, sometimes even 6 videos a week. It's a
That's a
lot.
lot. That's a lot. Now,
A
do you
lot.
have like, I know there are some YouTubers that will do all their videos on one day and then editing on another day, or they'll, whenever they get to, like for me, um, I try to get them done on the weekends. Sometimes
Mm.
that doesn't always happen. I like to do at least a minimum of two so I can knock a couple of things out. I generally will edit them right afterwards. I'd say 90% of my videos, I generally just edit the beginning and the end or any major kind of issue that happens, but very little do I take out. And if I do, if it's worth watching, I'll do bloopers at the end of my videos.
Yeah. Yeah, bloopers are always fun. I tend to edit throughout the whole video, but that's probably because I'm very conscious about, first of all, my language, because obviously I'm not a native speaker, so I need to feel comfortable with the words that I'm choosing. And if I'm not, I will stop and I will just do like this with my hands on the video, and that will show when I go into editing. I generally I skip ahead, but I when I see that I'm doing like this with my hands, I know that I have to edit that bit out.
That is interesting. You know what I do? What I do is I stay quiet for like 5 to 10 seconds. And then what I do is I pay attention to the audio. And when I see this gap in the audio, that's where I know I need to go and edit. So
Yeah,
that's
that's brilliant.
interesting.
Yeah, it's look, we need to find our way around it, don't we?
Yeah.
So I think that's brilliant because this way it gives me also the possibility to find, really feel comfortable with what I'm saying. And then I notice I do a lot of vocalizing exercises in the morning, for example, to try and separate all the consonant, and try and pronounce all the ending of the words, which is probably a step further than other people, simply because I'm not a native speaker. But it's also because sometimes I also have the impression that I'm saying things with I'm being too casual or too cavalier about some concepts that are quite important and they can constitute a trigger for someone. And so I would definitely go back and hear myself and decide if I want to keep it or not.
Okay.
And and I think one of the things, I don't know, maybe you can help me with that, because one of the things that I strongly believe in is to be, compassionate and kind. But when it comes to nudity in decks, for example, so I always say it, no matter what the deck. If there's nudity, I always say, I start by saying, I'm going to show you this deck, but there's nudity in the deck. So I just wanted to know that if you don't feel comfortable with it, please skip ahead. And a lot of people come to me and say, why do you even say it? It's fine. It's not, it's never aggressive kind of nudity anyway in a deck. But I still feel like I have to say it. What do you think about that?
Well, I think one, it's common courtesy,
Mm,
to give people a heads up. Because having something unexpected like frontal nudity could be jarring for some people.
sure.
Some people are very open and free with their sexuality. Other people are very conservative. In
Sure.
addition, I would think people who have had sexual trauma in their lifetime,
Oh, yeah.
that could be
Yeah.
really significantly triggering,
Of
and can
course.
cause immediate concerns for them at the moment. So, and I, you know, it it doesn't hurt to do it
Sure,
because it's
sure.
not very common. It's not common to see nudity in videos in general, but in tarot as well. There are some decks,
Yeah.
but not enough where, and also culturally, some cultures are much
Mm.
more open about sexuality. Other cultures are very conservative. Here in the United States, we're generally very conservative about nudity.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's interesting because you guys have 320 million people, don't you, more or less, in the United States. So it's a big country.
Hmm.
So obviously, I expect there to be a lot of different reactions from different cultures to that. And it's also because I think that my audience, for example, when you can look at the stats on your channel, my audience is 95% from the US. 95%.
Yeah, mine is generally high for the United States. I think mine is similar. I'd say 94% of mine are female as well.
Mm.
Um, so I wanted to ask you this. So you are doing your videos in English. Do you do them in, it's an Italian that you speak?
So my native language is Italian.
Okay.
I can do readings in Italian, but I prefer to do all the content, let's say in the platforms that I'm using, always in English because it has a better reach.
Okay.
You can reach, yeah.
Yeah. I was just curious. I was suspecting that was the reason. So, okay. Have you ever done videos in Italian?
No,
No.
should I?
Oh, no,
No, I
it was just a question. I was curious.
I feel that I obviously do when I'm doing a reading in Italian. So obviously, but it's a private reading. Whenever it's a private reading, it will be in Italian. But because I actually I speak French and Spanish as well, and so I'm doing readings for French customers. I will do them in French as well, and for Spanish customers, I will do them in Spanish. But I will never put those are always private mode, so they're
Okay.
literally private readings.
And how do you decide on what kind of content to create? Like, what kind of videos did you decide? Like, I think that at the beginning, it's like when I first started, I was like I don't even know what to do outside of a walkthrough. Um,
Yeah.
now I have so many ideas. It's like, oh my God, I can't fit everything in. How do you decide content for yourself in your channel?
I think it's a bit of a mix of marketing research because I watch a lot of channels, not just on tarot, but on, as I was mentioning before we were having a chat, I am into fountain pens, for example. So I watch a lot of videos on, planners, fountain pens, inks. I love art. So I watch videos on art. And so the marketing research component in that will tell me, for example, that there's an interest in knowing the top 10 of this or the top 10 of that, or what to do when you have this issue, what to do when you do this kind of practice. So there's a bit of that. And on the other hand, it is also, I always told myself, I made a pledge, a promise to myself to always have fun.
Yes.
So when I feel like a video is not, first of all, challenging, but also not making me happy or not giving me a sense of happiness, then in that case, I will think twice about filming that particular video. Because I believe that if you can feel it in the voice when someone is just doing it because they have to,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get to that. I want all of my videos to be people saying, oh, Silvia is really enjoying these cards. So she's really enjoying this video. She's really putting her heart into this video. And I want it's impossible to keep it always at 100%.
Hmm.
But when you strive to do that, you also gain in confidence, and it makes it easier to go on and put out so much content.
Yeah, so I look at a lot of videos as well, and as a person, it's funny to say, as a content creator on TerraTube, it cracks me up because that's actually true. Is I was looking at a lot of different videos, and one day it just dawned on me, why am I drawn to some compared to others? And so I started to look at that, and it's because it kind of fit my personality and what I like to see and hear.
Mm,
So then I started thinking, okay, well, what's going to make me kind of stand out in this group? I said, one, being male makes me stand out right off the bat because there's not enough of us when you look at all of TerraTube. And
true.
then I said, but like, so I just started looking because I also love watching videos as well. And the ones that I tend to be drawn to are the ones that tend to have like lights in the background and the room
Mm,
tends to be light, darker and there's a light on there. So that's why you see what you see now, because those are the ones
mhm,
that I'm really drawn to. And then I started to realize I don't know anybody on Terra 2 that has anything similar like
mm,
that. So that could be a way to make myself memorable. Um,
absolutely.
so those kinds of things were, even though it wasn't to try to gain more people, but it was more about wanting to create something that kind of represented me.
Hmm.
And I thought the more authentic I was, I think the more likely people would watch. I will say that I love doing these videos. I love doing these tarot chats. I have so much fun. Do I always feel like doing a video? No. Sometimes I
Mm.
drag myself in front of this camera. But once the camera's on and I start going, I really, really have a great time. I
I
just love
think it
doing
shows.
this.
I think it shows because watching your videos, you can tell that there's this sense of easiness, but not just because you're looking at the deck, you're talking about the deck, but you can tell this passion that you have. Or even when it's a deck that you don't particularly like. I remember you mentioned the magical nature that you still have mixed feelings about
Yeah.
that deck, but you can tell you can feel it, the authenticity of the person behind the camera, and it's not a commercial on TV. We're so bombarded. It's true though. We're so bombarded by actors doing their bit
Yeah.
that we're kind of used to that tone. And I think that now we kind of appreciate more when it's more honest. And perhaps sometimes we may not say the right word at the right time. We might not pronounce it correctly. We may have to repeat it. So it's not a perfect delivery, but because it comes from the heart, it actually has more value.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the people who tend to be the most authentic, uh, those are the ones that feel like they're your friend, the people that are in your
Yeah.
living room. See, those are the ones that that speak to me the most. And I will tell you that at the beginning, it felt awkward being in front of a camera, but little
Mm.
by little, it didn't take me very long to all of a sudden find it easy to talk to an audience that isn't necessarily present, you know? Um, Now, when it comes to decks, you have several hundred decks, am I correct?
Yes,
Now,
I
what are some of your favorite decks? Like, what decks are you like? Do you enjoy uh, using or having in your collection?
I actually prepared a couple of
Yeah.
times. I expected this question. So I have two, if that's
Okay.
okay. Because one of them, let's talk about this one. So this is, let me just put it.
More to your right, more to your right, to your right. There. And you're not going to
There.
believe what happened today with that deck for me.
Oh, now you have to tell me.
I saw your video today, and you've
Okay.
shown this deck several times. And I'm like, you know what? I really like that deck. And it's out of print, right? And I can't find it anywhere. So I
Mm.
contacted her, sent her an email saying, hey, you know, I resonate with this. Generally speaking, I resonate with this deck. Silvia has shown it on her channel on Fairlight Tarot. And I've really connected with it. If you have an open box, if you have a damaged box, whatever you got, if you happen to have one, I'd be really interested. And I've actually done that a few times and gotten lucky, but that is a really, really nice deck.
Julie is amazing, and I really hope that she will be able to send you a deck. This deck, the reason why I love it so much is because each and every one of these cards remind me of my life, and that's what
Yeah.
I say in my videos whenever I
Mhm.
show this deck. Not necessarily because, perhaps I haven't been drinking root beer. There's a root beer here. Maybe I haven't. But the concept that is behind, because this is the two cups, and there's a root beer, and there's an ice cream, and there's two birds, at the top. And I think to myself, I definitely feel like in my life, I've had that situation in which even the most simple thing, like enjoying an ice cream, was the symbol of how close I was to that person in that moment.
Hmm.
And I think that when a deck speaks to you directly so much, it should be one of your top decks because it puts you in a better position to understand the card and also to give a better reading. And and obviously when it comes to the aesthetics, people may not like it because we're all different, and that's absolutely fine. But there is a sense of, look at the magician, for example.
Yeah.
There is a sense of awareness of the card. So you understand what the meaning was. And I think I always say this, and I've been challenged on that by someone. I say this is an excellent deck for beginners. And I have been challenged on that because some people say it's not, it's an RWS clone, but it's too modern. And there's a lot of people, and I respect their opinion. So there's a lot of people that believe that you should start from an RWS clone when you're a beginner. I, on the other hand, think that you should start with what makes you comfortable. So if an RWS doesn't talk to you, then, find some deck that does.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
this is definitely,
Yeah, because the thing is that how are you going to get engaged with the deck and want to learn and get excited about using it if it doesn't resonate? I will tell you that the original Rider-Waite-Smith coloring does not resonate with me. I still love the deck, but it's not
yeah.
one that I would want to dive into. However, there's the modern tarot that has pastels colors all over it, which I think is stunning. I have the Royal Fez of Moroccan, which I absolutely adore. That one I use quite a bit. And then I have the deck that really kind of got me in the Neo Rider Tarot collection. Have you seen this one?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Oh
beautiful.
man, I love this Rider-Waite clone. In my videos, I talk about colors and how color is very important to me in tarot decks. This has the energy, it speaks to me it's the same image, it's just colored differently. And this is a deck that I will pick up all the time. Like if I need a deck, a Rider-Waite deck, this is the one I go to. So yes, I agree with you 100% with that.
Yeah, you need to feel like you have this conversation and you
Mhm.
need to feel at ease. And there's this other deck, and I'm so sorry that they're both indie deck, and I know that I shouldn't have done that, so my
Why?
apologies.
Wait,
But
wait,
this
wait,
is
wait,
just
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Why should you not have done that? This,
because they're not easy to get, and someone cannot afford them.
okay,
So
so
it's
I don't like this. Let me tell you, I'm gonna have a moment. I'm gonna have a moment. Yes, I appreciate when people show me indie decks and out of print decks because how do I ever get a unicorn deck list if I don't know that they exist? Let me tell
true.
you, I have let me tell you, 2023 was crazy for me with out of print decks, unicorn decks. I would have never gotten the spoiler tarot if someone didn't show it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would have never gotten Blood Moon Tarot had someone not shown it. And through you, I was able to get my hands on it. So you never know. And so I think it may be a long shot. I may never get it, but it's something to shoot for. And if anything, I can appreciate it. So I'm like, show all your out of print decks. Show those decks that they only made 10 copies of. That's how I feel about it.
Well, look, this one is the slow tarot, and I think that it actually went back into print.
It did. To your right a little more. To your right. There you go. Yes.
So I think, yeah, I don't know whether right now it's still available. Perhaps they went out of stock. I'm not entirely sure.
I will check right now because I was able to get my printing of the slow. I didn't realize how beautiful it was until like I
It's
liked
amazing.
it because of the images, but man, there's a lot of emotion in each and
There
every one of
is.
those cards.
There is. And this is so my favorite card in a deck is the star card because it's also referring back to the zodiac sign of Aquarius. So I always pay attention to the star card in a deck, and this is by far my favorite star card of
Oh
all
yeah,
time.
see, we're talking about that in your video today.
Yeah,
That's one of the things that I really love about your videos is you really have a wonderful way of explaining why something is whatever it is for you. And the way you explain that star card and its meaning for you, I thought was great. And it looks
thanks.
like it is still available. Yep, it's still available.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Because I really, whenever, for example, I have lots of friends, they ask me, they want to buy another deck and they ask me for a recommendation. And I know if I know them, I will go, straight to the point. Oh, you will love this deck or you will love that deck. If I don't know them, I kind of try and ask them what they prefer, what they would like to see in a deck, what their level of knowledge. But when it comes to the slow tarot, my sale pitch is look, it's a deck that is it's inspired by RWS. So even if you're a beginner reader, you will be able to read it. But it's got so much human essence in all of the cards because it does also show you modern kind of situations and you see yourself in the cards and it's very there's a lot of feelings even in cards that don't necessarily relate to feelings, so it's one of those decks that actually creates some kind of a communion with you when you're reading for yourself, for others, when you're reading for meditation or for personal growth or whatever it is that you're doing. And when a deck can actually reach that deep down into your soul, that to me is already a success. Whether it's a deck that is popular or not, I don't care. Maybe they only sold 3 copies. So be
Yep,
it.
it resonates with you. It resonates with you.
Exactly.
Now, what deck was the most difficult for you to get? Because I know you've
I
had
think
several
that
that were really hard for you to get.
look, I did a video a couple of weeks ago where I was actually so frustrated with a few decks that I have that I actually reached out to the community and I said, guys, I don't get these decks. I don't pick them up. Like I can't bring myself to pick them up and use them. So please, if you have these decks, just let me know how you relate to them, how you bond with them, because maybe, you will inspire me to do something about it. And I have to say that this has got nothing to do with the creator, with the deck itself,
Oh
with the
yeah.
images. It's just personal. But
Mm-hmm.
the Serpent Fire, the Serpent Fire Tarot,
Mm-hmm.
it was the hardest deck that I ever had in my entire collection. And I could not bond with that deck, no matter what I was doing, how hard I was trying. And I think I got to the point in which I was pushing myself so hard that it was impossible to bond because
Yeah.
I saw it as some kind of an exercise. And that doesn't work. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work.
And any deck out there right now that you're still looking for?
Always.
Always.
Always. I have a never ending wish list. It's crazy. There's a few, for example, that are still in print, and it's just a matter of, finally getting into the mood. For example,
Mhm.
the Tarot of Oneness, I think it's called,
Yeah.
or the
Mm-hmm.
Oneness Tarot, the
Mm-hmm.
Tarot of Oneness. That's not a unicorn deck because I know that it's still in print, but I just never got around to purchasing it, and I missed out, and then but there is, for example, a Victorian romantic pre cold stamping. So I think
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about third edition or
Mm-hmm.
second edition. So pre cold stamping, that's definitely on my unicorn list. And then it will be forever there because I'll never be able to afford it. But the Delta Enduring Tarot.
Delta Enduring. I don't know that one, I don't think.
Oh, Benny.
I want to look it up
Check it
right
out.
now.
check it out. So it's based in the southern state of the US. So obviously it's your own background. And it is a modern take on tarot, but it's the cards. So not so much the aesthetics, not so much the art style, but the cards, they are just fantastic. If you Google it, there's I think
Oh,
it's Delta Enduring.
yes, I've
Yeah.
seen this before. Yeah, yeah, this deck can be really expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen it for sale, to be honest.
There was one for sale in Australia in one of the Facebook groups, but they wanted something like $1,200.
Is I'm wondering if this is the one that um Ethany was selling.
She was.
Yes,
She
okay, I
was,
remember
you're
this.
right.
Yeah, she was
But
selling
it
this
also
one at
it
the,
went up.
yeah.
It went to stratospheric prices and I just, I just
Do
couldn't.
you have like a cutoff point that I will not spend this much money on a deck ever?
I would love to say I do, but to be honest, I don't think I do. I spent like my copy of the Brimstone and Earth Flesh Tarot by
Oh,
Alan Cameron, illustrated by Anna Torian. I spent a lot of money because it came with two lithographies by Anna
mm,
Torian, and
I
and
remember that video.
uh, look, I think that I went a bit overboard with that, but then again, I don't regret it. I still have it. I don't regret it now. So it means that I was ready at that moment to pay that much money for that deck.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've been very lucky. I haven't had to spend anything too crazy for a deck.
The spolia might have been expensive, I imagine. The
Let me
spolia.
tell you, I got very fortunate. It is
Okay.
not the most expensive deck that I've paid for. Um, the person who sold it, I had two people actually sell it to me. So I have two copies. I have a backup copy. And
Okay.
both of them were very generous in what they were willing to. Like they told me the price, and my first thought is like, is this a scam? That was my first thought. And I did a video on the first one that I got called
Yeah.
Did I get what I paid for? And that woman went out above and beyond to make it a whole special thing for me. The most expensive deck, I don't have them out because I packed because I'm moving. Um, oh, the Occultalto, I always mispronounce it, is the most expensive deck I've paid for. It was also the first deck that I paid over 150 bucks for, you know. Um, and I love that deck. That deck, I don't know what is about that deck, but that deck had me crazy looking for it. And it was the first deck that I reached out to somebody who was in Australia, and I did all my stuff to protect myself, and then I just took a leap of faith, and
Yeah.
that's all I could do, and it worked out. I love that deck. That's an amazing deck. Um,
It's beautiful.
yeah, but 2023, I got a lot of really great decks. I did my unicorn deck video on that one. You should do a unicorn deck video. That would be a good one.
I should, yeah, I should.
And
I always, as I said before, but I see your point of view, but I'm always a bit conscious about, making people want a deck that I can't have. But I get your point of view because if you don't show a deck, people will not get to know it. And so they
yeah,
wouldn't even know if they want it or not.
they wouldn't even know that it existed.
Mm,
I get the idea of I don't want to see them because then there's this longing and yearning and frustration that can go with it.
mm.
Um, but like I said, I would not have the decks that I
True.
would get. Um, have you ever gotten any, because I'm curious about this. Have you ever gotten any kind of flack for having so many decks, or how is it that you're able to spend all this money on decks? Yeah.
I think there was a video that I posted perhaps when I moved because I moved about 6 months ago, and when I moved, I literally showed the boxes and the
I
unbox
remember.
everything. And I got a comment from a subscriber saying, you should consider that you have a problem, as in you're accumulating too much, you spending too much, and I actually took some time before answering because I didn't want to answer straight away because I felt a bit like perhaps this person was kind of trying to not hurt me specifically, but I didn't feel like it was a kind comment. But then I thought maybe she's actually trying to help you, realize something that you don't you don't know. And so I literally did a bit of an introspection, and I asked myself, do I feel uncomfortable? Do I feel like I am becoming a slave to my collection? There's sometimes it can become very burdening. And
Right, the
my
double
conclusion
card.
was exactly. So I felt like that I was not at that stage, but I don't think that I will ever get to that stage, although never say never, because I started collecting decks 36 years ago.
Mm.
And so many of my decks are, 30 years old. And but there's also attenuating circumstances on other decks as well, because I also strongly believe in rehoming a deck when it doesn't resonate with me.
Yes, and I've seen your videos where you do let people know that these are the ones that I'm going to be rehoming. So yes.
So that creates a fund that I then use to purchase other decks.
Lisa, you might want to move over to your right a little bit, cause Sylvia, because there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I ended up getting a comment once that didn't set well with me. And it didn't also help that I had seen a couple of videos talk about tarot addiction,
Okay.
which didn't set well overall. I understood the meaning and the purpose, but there was a lot of personal views that kind of skewed over actual mental health diagnosis facts. And so it made me do a lot of introspection. And one of the things that I think people don't seem to realize is that everybody's situation is very different. I'm sure there are people out there that do have issues related to buying decks that create havoc in their life, that create financial burdens, financial crisis. But there are a lot, if not more people, that they just have the ability to buy more decks. For
For
example,
sure.
for myself, I'm very fortunate to have a good job than not to have a mortgage or a car payment. So that I have this extra income. So in my first year, I went a little crazy and bought way too many decks, but it didn't create any kind of problems in my life. Um, my deck buying since December has gone down significantly. But it's because I've gotten over the excitement of tarot and buying all these decks and getting all these decks, which is fun. Now I'm really purposely thinking about the kind of decks that I do want. And I actually make myself wait. But everybody's circumstance is very different. And you can't really make a judgment call based on somebody you don't know on a video. It's very
Absolutely.
difficult to do that. Like as a mental health practitioner, I could never do that. I have to do so much more in doing an assessment, really focusing on what's happening in so many different ways uh, to be able to make a formal diagnosis with somebody. So,
Absolutely.
so I think
But
meaning
I couldn't.
it really has a lot to do with comments, and I think for you, you really took the time to kind of figure that out, and you came to the conclusion that this person probably really had positive sentiments in making those statements.
I think that we all go through things in a different way,
Hmm.
and I think that ultimately you're the one that has to answer to yourself whether you feel comfortable or uncomfortable with a hobby or with something you're passionate about or a collection. And I never felt uncomfortable. So that is already a big green light for me because not, I will feel it. I would feel if I was overdoing it. But I think that it's a very interesting concept that you brought up because comments on our videos. I think that sometimes people leave a comment without necessarily, filtering, without using any color filter. And sometimes we take it very personally, or at least in my case.
Yeah.
Sometimes I take some comments personally, and I make it a point never to answer straight away, because it's the heat of the moment. You're not yourself. But then I also, YouTube helped me to develop some really healthy boundaries. And when I see that the comment was actually unpleasant, and it wasn't constructive, because sometimes you get those comments as
Yeah.
well,
I am
then,
absolutely okay with comments that aren't, oh, you did a great job, you're wonderful. I'm okay with like this video, it was very difficult to watch. It was boring, whatever it is. As long as it's constructive, I'm
yeah,
okay with that because it helps me kind of make a better video the next time, or
exactly.
make it visually more appealing, or make the audio better. Or I had someone mention that they didn't necessarily like unboxings because there wasn't a lot of um, depth in, like, because I didn't read the guidebook and all that kind of
Okay,
stuff. I understood it, but I also know that I like making those kind of videos because you get to see the authentic reaction. So those kinds of
of
things I'm
course.
absolutely okay with.
Yeah, me too. And I think that it's after a while you develop some kind of sense of understanding what the person wanted to say,
Hmm.
and can you take it in a constructive way? Can you get better? Can you use it to your own advantage to improve the output? But sometimes there's been comments, and I have no problem in saying it if you want me to say. It was a comment about my accent.
Mm.
And it wasn't a very nice comment. It wasn't a comment like, "Hey, by the way, I can tell you're not a native speaker," which is it's true. It's the truth.
Hmm.
What do I have to do with? It was someone saying, "Learn English,"
Mm.
And I thought to myself, okay, so this person is taking the time, because you have to take the time to actually write the comment, push, click on whatever, go or something like that, and it's something that it gets filtered, and then you get it. And I thought to myself, so someone went to the extent of watching my video, writing the comment, and publishing it. And I thought, am I really that bad? And so that prompted, the vocalizing exercises that I do in the morning. I started trying and separate the words and make them more intelligible. So that make me a better speaker. I will never be 100%, but that's okay. And I'm okay with that. But that comment, I actually deleted it. And I have no problem in sharing this with you, because I don't think that, even though the outcome was for me to get better, I
Yeah.
don't think the intention was good.
Right, the intention. The intention doesn't come. Yeah. And this is the thing. Like, not all of us speak the same. We speak the same language, but we don't all sound the same. Someone from the South here in the United States has a very distinctive accent. Somebody from the East Coast, oh my gosh, they have a very distinctive accent. Somebody from the West Coast. And then people in the South tend to speak at a slower cadence. People on the East side, they tend to speak at a very fast cadence. So it's like, if you understand what I'm saying, then I don't know what the concern is.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, is, do people understand me? Yes or
Mhm.
no? If they do, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry that was an experience, but I loved that you took it and made it a positive and did something that you feel actually helped you in the long run.
Definitely. And also in my personal life, because I live in an English speaking country, I live in Australia. So obviously my relationship are always in English when I speak. So I noticed that I actually have less of a communication barrier between myself and other people because of that. So it was great. It was great for me.
Good. Do you do any kind of journaling?
I do, yes, almost every day.
You journal almost every day?
Almost every day,
What
yes.
kind of journaling do you do? Is it I think you've done little notes on a like a planner. Is that mainly
Yes.
what you do?
I have 5 journals.
Five journals.
5 different journals. Yes, uh, I've always been journaling even before I started reading tarot. It's mostly started for meditation purposes because I've always been a very spiritual person. So I believe that meditation gets you, it puts you in a very receptive state of mind. And so I was journaling for meditation, and I keep on doing that. I journal with tarot. I also journal with daily things that happen, not necessarily linked to tarot, for example, that I feel like I have to write down. I do travel journaling, and that's a very fun thing to do because we do it together with my husband when we travel, so it's always nice. And we started travel journaling when we met 17 years ago. So we have
Wow.
like 100 travel journals
I
that
was
we
gonna
did.
ask you, do you save all your journals?
Yes, yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yes,
I mean, that's talk about documenting your life.
yeah, pretty much.
Do you have any plans to do any kind of a book or anything with your journals?
So I wrote a couple of books, but that was fiction related, and I'm trying to publish them on Substack now because it's just an easier way. And by doing that, I had to change my perspective on how I write. So journaling can actually be a stepping stone into writing pretty much anything you want.
Hmm.
So to answer your question, I was definitely thinking about it. However, there is that last barrier that doesn't seem to want to come down. That it's, when you're if you're writing fiction, it's fiction. You can write whatever you want because
Yeah.
people don't identify you with the character in your book. But when you come out to the world and you say, this is my journal and it's my personal stuff,
A memoir.
you're naked.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And so that's the last, I think that's what stops me because even now, yesterday I filmed the video about, the monthly wrap up on the month
Hmm.
of April. And I also show my journals and I write in Italian. And so I feel less exposed. So because I know 95% of people
People
would
aren't
not
going to
be
be
able
able to
to
read
read
it. That's hilarious. Now, when it comes to tarot tubers, other tarot tubers, who are your go-tos? Who are the people that you're kind of, because you've already mentioned Danny, Lisa, Dawn. Anybody else that you kind of follow?
I adore Marine from The Waves of Your Soul.
Hmm.
She's an absolute joy. When we were talking about, you can tell if someone is smiling from their tone
Hmm.
of voice.
Yeah.
Marine, it's just you feel like you're with a friend having a really nice conversation, sometimes funny, sometimes a bit more serious, but always very deep and meaningful. And it's always the same with her videos. And that's so for sure, Marine. And Thea from the Garden Goddess Tarot, she has the most amazing collection. And I love when she shows her face on the videos because she's always so luminous. She's just really
Her
bright.
her production is beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, I love her lighting. I like how clear her image is. I love the background. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I try to diversify as well. So whenever I see someone that I don't know, I will always make it a point to watch at least one video to see what their style is like.
Mhm.
And I really enjoy Cassandra from A Riffle in Time lately
So
because
do
she's
I. I've
also
been watching a
very,
lot of
yeah,
hers lately.
she's
Yeah,
very
she just,
spontaneous.
so this is going to transition perfectly. I'm glad you brought her up. She just started a membership. Did you
Oh,
know
yeah,
that?
okay.
Yeah, she just started.
I think I watched the video, yes.
It's like a week ago. Um, and I remember when you announced, it was the first time I saw you. You were sitting on your couch and you announced your membership. What inspired the membership for you?
Because I feel that some of the videos I really cared about were the videos where I was accessing a few feelings, and I used to call them tarot in the times of, and then I will put anxiety, I will put, confusion, grief, etc. Those videos were not popular because you look at the counts, you have to deal with algorithms, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They were not popular, but the persons that actually did watch the video, they literally made it a point to reach out to me and tell me how meaningful they found those videos to be for them in their lives. There was this person, I will not name, of course, but this person reached out to me and she said, and it's a public comment, so everyone can see, so I'm not disclosing anything particularly secretive, but she said, your video did more for me than 4 years of therapy. And it was a video about how to use tarot to help in the process of healing from grief, for example. And so I wanted to do more of that, but I knew that they were not going to be popular. And so I thought to myself, hang on a second, so I can actually do this in my membership. And so someone would actually be motivated to watch these videos because that would be the reason why they became their members. You know? And so that was the main reason. And then I thought, okay, let's diversify and do another level. So there's 3 levels. One is just a supportive entry level, but then there's the sunlight level, which is a middle level. And that's for my, tarot reading courses, because giving classes, I just love it. I love getting to the depth of the cards and talking about it and having a community that responds to you. That I say it in all of my videos. I say, this is the reason why I'm here. Building meaningful connections. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then your third tier is what?
The third tier is more related to these kind of videos that I was mentioning. So I call them healing step by step. And I always say this. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel overcome, help is just a click or a phone call away, seek out professional help. So I'm not a professional healthcare worker, but I believe strongly that everything that makes us feel better is contributing to your journey to healing. And so in those videos, for example, I show the way in which I use tarot with tarot spreads specifically, created by myself, or even prompts or even specific cards. In which I literally show how I use tarot in my healing journey. And I believe that healing journeys are never ending because we just go through stages, different stages of healing. And we talk about healing the inner child wound, for example. We talk about healing or try and break free from a cage, which sometimes is a cage of your own making. And I have this personal relationship with the members that are part of my Starlight membership. And it's a fantastic way to get in touch and to help each other. And we're all on the same boat because I'm doing it at the same time as everyone else.
Well, I am part of your membership. And so that's why we would email back and forth. And I've asked for a couple of readings. It seems I tend to ask pretty serious questions compared to some of the other questions that I see you people asking. And I will tell you, the thing that I appreciate the most is that you always are very mindful to say, if it gets very personal, I will create a private video that will be just for you and nobody else can see, which I think really creates a safe place for people to be willing to ask for a reading. So I will tell you, I think that is a phenomenal thing that you do for your subscribers, is to make sure that they have a safe space to be able to come to you for.
Thank you, Benny. I really appreciate that because that is one of the most important things for me. Being able to create a space in which people feel safe and feel like they can share something that can be painful for them, and they just want to be heard. And I cannot possibly do that if I start giving out details about them, and
Hmm.
they will feel betrayed. And so
Yeah.
that's one pledge that I always give to my members. If I, during a reading, if I feel like I have to address you personally because the circumstances require that, I will switch to private mode. It's not difficult. I mean, you do videos as well. You know that you can choose not to. You edit that bit out and you just
Yeah.
send it private. So
Now,
be
this is my last question. Um, is well, this there are it's a collection of questions. So, last topic. So, you consider yourself a professional tarot reader, yes?
Yes.
And oh my God, my question is, it slipped my mind. Oh, is this your full-time job?
It's slowly becoming a full-time job in the sense that I am slowly making more time, dedicating it to, let's say, the reading within YouTube. Let's put it this
Okay.
way. First of all, because it requires a lot of time. So, there's only 24 hours a day and we need
Yeah.
to sleep at least 8 hours. So there's no two ways around that. But it's also because I am very fortunate that my muggle job, so my daily job, is in finance. And so, I can decide, if I want to stop what I'm doing, looking at the stock market, and I want to take a break and do a video, I can do it. So I'm very fortunate, that way. So I hopefully, obviously, it will need to become sustainable, and
Yeah.
it's not at this point. But hopefully, with more members, that will become sustainable one day, and then it will hopefully replace my daily job.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me by chance before we go?
How do you do it? You're so relaxed. I'm still so nervous. How
Oh,
do you how do you keep, you feel so natural, like it's your environment. You feel, and
I,
I'm constantly looking at myself in the camera. I'm thinking,
oh, I
oh,
look at
this
myself.
angle is better.
I look at myself in the camera too. No, I just love people. You know, I'm a talker. I've always been a
Mm.
talker. And I remember I didn't know I was a talker until I was in the third grade and I would get in trouble a lot with the teachers for talking. And it was the first I had a teacher who had a sign. She had a sign of a big mouth. It was these lips with teeth and it had big mouth on it. And she would give it to
Okay.
students who would get caught talking in class, which was a weekly event for me. And one day, I got in trouble and I went to my mom, and my mom got upset. And my mother told me, mijo, you talking to people is a gift from God.
Of
You don't
course.
let nobody tell you any different. And so I went into my third grade class and I was just going to talk when I wanted to talk. So I went and I got that big mouth sign and I put it on. I went to my desk and I just started talking away.
Good on
So,
you.
so
Good on you.
I just love people. I love talking to people. I like learning about people. I think that's one of the things that I feel makes me a good therapist is I get really engaged in people's lives because I find human beings so interesting.
Yes, absolutely. I
And
agree.
so
100%.
tarot and talking to people, you put them together and we got a tarot chat and it's perfect for me.
Absolutely. It's a lovely way to build connections.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my channel has become from watch me learn tarot to watch me learn tarot while I build a community because I really like
Mm.
people connecting.
Mm.
And so hopefully this kind of bleeds into other channels as well.
Yeah, I would love to see more, to be honest. More chats, more also topics. Like, for example, it doesn't have to be a long chat, but just maybe monthly appointments with one topic, and you can have 3 or 4 guests and discussing their own view on that. And I know that it's a big commitment because obviously the schedule does not
Hmm.
always free up, but it would be lovely to see something like that for
Yeah,
sure.
and so one of the things that I do is I do this in order. I had my group tarot chat. So the first 5 people that were I had on my channel, I coordinated with all of them, found a time on the same day for us to meet together. And so I'm doing that with all the groups with as many people who are willing to participate. But it is about kind of finagling a time and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but it's always the same. I mean, we're all adults. We have our own lives. We have jobs and everything. But do you feel like? Sorry, I'm asking you another
Yeah, no,
question.
please go
But
ahead.
I'm feeling that we have a really good connection. So I was thinking, do you feel like do you believe in karma? And if you do you feel like this is actually building up good positive vibes?
I do believe in karma. In fact, I built a shrine, which is not here right now because I'm moving. And in the center of my shrine, I have a stump of Jesus Christ, and then I have a statue of the Karma Buddha.
Oh, wonderful.
And so, yes, karma, I believe in karma. I believe everything that I put out will come back. Um, and it accumulates. And just because it doesn't come back right away doesn't mean it won't show up 10 or 15 years later. So,
Yeah,
yes, I do strongly believe in karma. And I do think that this kind of thing will, you know, sends out positive energy into our community in the world.
yeah, I agree 100%. It's always about being kind and and making sure that we try to help as much as we can because we never know what others are going through. So it's very important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. I had a lovely time. It was just absolutely marvelous to be here and go and finally doing it, being on camera.
Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, my name is Benny. I am the Fool's Apprentice. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Benny.